1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5 of the top 10 made it as far as making the playoffs. So still, half of the top 10 made the final dance, but only one of them has a chance to win the World Series.
Yeah, and I think what you'd look at is what the teams talk about these days is that window.
Yep.
You can see that the top payroll teams, the top spending teams, are going to turn right around and starting. As soon as the playoffs are over, they're going to start retooling for next year. Those guys, the window's constantly open. They've always got a shot because they've got the fat wallets. The other teams, you do need an element of luck. You do need to win an extra inning wild card game to get where you need to be. You do need to have an element of luck, an element of sort of all facets of your team coming together in a given year, and that can be helped by good player development and good management on the field. But it also, you have to sort of get lucky with your bullpen and with your starters and with your injury situation. And those windows are small. And, we talked about the Tigers. Their window may very well be closing a little bit, even though they do spend money because they're aging. And as we talked about the other day, but middle and small market teams, their windows open and close much more quickly, much more frequently. It's harder to retool because you're talking about needing to develop players from the system that takes 3 and 4 and 5 years. So you just don't have that luxury of being at the window, at least with it open with a chance to get in every year. You kind of have to, you need to have things come together. You need an element of luck, and you need to have, I think creativity and sense of urgency in your front office to make changes in the middle of the season. And I think this year that's where the Indians maybe fell a little bit short because I think they sort of fooled themselves. I think they really at the All-Star break we've said it a little bit before here that they kind of fooled themselves into thinking that they maybe didn't really have a shot. They've shown nothing at the All-Star break to make anybody think they were better than the 500 team, and maybe sold themselves a little bit short by not getting aggressive to try to get guys that could help you in 2014 as opposed to guys that can help you down the line.
I agree with you. And as I scroll down past the payrolls here, it's got all the teams, individuals, and I'm looking. I mean, the Indians' problem just speaks for itself. And now the Indians' problem, and this is where I have to go the other way with the Dolan argument, is I can get with you in the past and in the last few seasons, even up until they spent some money. Now it's just misspent money. It's not spent money. But when you look at the Indians here, they've got 13 guys that are at $1 million or more this season that they made. Now let me start listing you all these names and tell me how many of them did nothing or have nothing. Vinny Pistano, last I checked, he's not on the Indians. Josh Outman, Jason Giambi, Zepchinski, Ryan Rayburn, which, by the way, Ryan Rayburn was the 9th highest paid Indian this year. He was in the top 10 highest paid Indians. Brantley, underpaid as can be. Aviles, Santana, Axford, Murphy, and then the top 4, Masterson, Cabrera, Michael Bourne, Nick Swisher. Swisher, Bourne, Cabrera, and Masterson alone, $15, $20, $30, $40, $44.5 million tied up in those 4 guys alone. $44.5 million.
Yeah, it's crazy. In fact, Santana, Subchinski, those are about the only 2 guys from that list. You just said Brantley.
Brantley and Aviles.
Are the only 3 that I even care to have back.
Aviles, they paid Aviles $3.5 million. And people are, I liked Aviles. I don't like Aviles at that price tag. I like his flexibility. I think he's a cool guy. He's a good quote after the games. Like, from that aspect, I like Mike Aviles. I don't have a problem with him being on the team, but again, like you said, you look at that whole list. David Murphy, I'm okay with that. I know some people don't like that he makes almost $6 million. I think he makes $5.5 this year, $6.5 next year, or something like that. But I like David Murphy. He's a professional hitter. I really do.
Until you find a more plausible,
a better alternative
next year, then you better keep him around.
Exactly. But I mean, like we said, those top 4, of which 2 are gone. With obviously Swisher and Bourne, Axford's gone, Santana, Aviles making 3.5. Then you get Brantley, who is so poorly underpaid in that list when you realize that he made just $2.3 million compared to the rest of those guys. And then Rayburn's at 2.2, and Zipchinski, Outman gone. Giambi makes $1 million just to hang out, and Pistano made $1 million, And then Elliott Johnson made $930,000, and he just took a walk as a free agent. I think the other day he was a minor league free agent. So I don't think he's in the franchise anymore. But Elliott Johnson made $930,000 for his contribution to the Indians last year. What was his contribution to the Indians last year? Because I don't remember.
Yeah, that's a scary list, and you're right. It's money misspent, and you can sometimes keep the fans happy by, or at least sated by going after and spending money and signing players. And obviously we didn't know going into the season that Axford was going to be a bust, and that we would basically give up on Outman because we had some better left-handed reliever options, and we're able to make a trade for him. But the rest of the guys, you don't know that Swisher's going to completely underperform and end up having double knee surgery. So you got to have things go right, and that's one of the things. We sat here at the All-Star break, and you and I were scratching our heads, wondering how in the world this team was even in it.
Yeah.
Based on having our closer take a powder and 60% of our starting rotation being turned over before the middle of June, and all those other things going on, and other guys like Santana and Kipnis and Swisher underperforming. We were wondering, how the heck is this team even close to 500, let alone at 500? And
as
the year went along, we continued to scratch our heads and wondering how the heck Francona was pulling this off.
Let's put what you just said into better perspective. You just heard the numbers that I listed, and I mean, you don't need to hear them from me. We've all seen them. We've seen the numbers in the plain deal. We all know what these guys make, but think about what I just said. Look at the top four. That gave you nothing. I mean, I don't have that wins above replacement over me, but I guarantee you, Bourne, Swisher, Cabrera, and Masterson added up to 0 wins over replacement. I'm positive about that. They did not bring any tangible additions winning-wise to this team. That amount that I gave you, $44.5 million for those 4 players that did not contribute. So basically, the Indians won, 85, 87, whatever they ended up with, games this year with a $40 million payroll.
Yeah, with $40 million worth of players.
That's what actually contributed. Right. Their actual payroll was $40 million when you look at the actual pieces that played for them this season. That may be a record for the most number of games won with the least amount of money in baseball.
Yeah, that's true, and chalk up another vote for Francona for Manager of the Year.
I'm serious. That's $40 million of usable talent, man.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. But anyway, at least like we said, it's proof that the middle markets can do it. They can pull it off, and get to the Final Four, and we'll see what happens. So who do you like going forward? I mean, not who do you like, but who do you think is going to win in the LCSs and the World Series?
Oh, man, I'm laughing. As I'm scrolling past that real quick, I was rolling up the page. Toronto, with their incredibly successful season that they had this year, they've got 22 guys on their payroll that make over $1 million each. Of course, it tops off at Burley with $19 million. But yeah, they didn't even have the season the Tribe did, man. 20, think about that. But man, I got to tell you, I'm torn in the American League because part of me is like, yeah, let's hate on Kansas City. But, man, part of me is like, yeah, you know what? Go for it, Kansas City. I really don't have a preference. Man, I'm still digging the Cardinals, man. I like them coming out of the National League. The other side is tougher. I really wouldn't have a problem with either team. I mean, I think Baltimore's better. Baltimore clubbed Detroit there, man. I got to think Baltimore is going to knock off Kansas City, but I wouldn't be hurt if Kansas City won either.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I mean, I don't have a real strong rooting interest on either side in either series. I guess I prefer to see the Cardinals I mean, I admire their franchise. Okay,
Right.
And that's just it. For every degree that Cleveland is a football town, St. Louis is a baseball town. Their football team, their NFL team, is definitely second fiddle in that town, just like the Tribe is second fiddle to the Browns in this town. The fans are knowledgeable, the fans are loyal, the fans are crazy. So, and they've got a beautiful park, and everything about it is a model franchise, especially from the standpoint of their player development, minor league system, et cetera. And I love their pitching. They do it with pitching. They've got great relievers, Rosenthal, and all these guys. They're just tough as nails. So I guess I'd favor seeing. And like you, I think the Orioles maybe just have too much for the Royals. But if that Kansas City Cinderella story keeps on going, hey, that's okay too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So sometimes, like I said the other day, sometimes when I don't have a rooting interest, I just sit down and start watching the game, and my gut tells me who I'm rooting for.
That's what I do too.
It's a subconscious thing that you just wind up rooting for one team or the other, and you don't really know how or why. So I guess I'll just try to enjoy the baseball as I have so far. It's been a great treat to watch this playoff so far, because it's just been how cool postseason baseball is and how intense it is and how compelling to watch. And I just get surprised every year. Oh yeah, this is great. This is just like last year where it was awesome. So
Yep.
I just, as a baseball fan, I just get a big charge out of it. And October, for that reason, is my favorite month of the year. Not only the sports, but the weather and everything else about it. It's just cool.
I agree with you. And that's kind of, I think, the way I'm going to evolve with Kansas City and Baltimore, too. A lot of times when it's two teams that I don't have a rooting interest, I'm just like you. I'll watch it, and as the story tells itself, that's where, like, I go, you know what, I'm really starting to get behind it. Sometimes I don't even know who's out there. I'm like, I'm really starting to get behind the guys with the unicorn on their helmet there, I'm joking, but you know what I'm saying. You start watching the flow of the game, and like you said, your gut just says, I'm really starting to feel for this. So whichever team jumps out to a big lead, maybe some team wins the first game or two, then I'll start rooting for the other team, just because I want to see a Game 7. I want to see an underdog come from behind. Stuff like that. We'll just kind of let the story tell itself, and then we'll just go along with it.
What's the surprising thing, and I don't know if you've heard anything about the historical perspective. I really haven't. I'm just more curious, asking it rhetorically. But has there ever been the two rounds of the playoffs, without a Game 5? In other words, we haven't been in this format for all that long, especially not with the two wildcard teams. But very surprising that not a single series goes 5 games, and I don't know if we've ever had both one seeds knocked out before the LCSs either. I'm curious to know if that's happened before, and if so, when it did. But it's just been a strange year as all the big boys are falling. It's like last week in college football when 11 of the top 20 went south. It's just been an upset couple of weeks here as all the big boys are taking the pipe.
Yeah, you hit me with a curveball there. I don't have the slightest clue. We'd have to research that and see. And like you said, this new format's only been so long, so we'll have to go see when the last time no Game 5s there in that first round. I mean, just pretty dominant victories across the board there too, which part of me likes that, because you're getting, theoretically, the best of the best. The guys that are playing the best right now, the guys that are showing up every day and are apparently the strongest 4 teams at this time of the season. So that's a good way to look at that, too, is that there was no, either team could have went out, it was these teams went out there, took care of their business, and moved on.
Yeah, some decisiveness about the outcomes, is good, because there's no controversy, certainly, about who got where and how they got there.
For sure. And you know what? Let's segue there, right there. You mentioned, by the way, St. Louis. Good comparison, not just to Cleveland in general. They've lost their football team too. I mean, they've been through a lot, man. And I just, I don't know, man. I always have that. And plus, the model organization is a great way to put that. If I could turn the Indians into that development system, the player development, and of course the envy of the league as far as the pitching that they develop and the prospects that come up through it. So, I've always I've had a soft spot there for that St. Louis market.
Yeah, just a guy, you see new names pop up every year. The last couple of years, it's been, Shelby Miller and Trevor Rosenthal and Waka and these guys. And now, I didn't even know who Kelton Wong was about a week ago.
Now you do.
Here he is hitting a big homer, and I read that one article that I sent you about why they were willing to part with James Ramsey.